New information in the stabbing death of a young mother in a park. Clovis police say the woman's death was a random killing. News 13's Dean Staley has more.
At this time, we've got nothing that indicates that these two folks knew each other. So at this stage, we're willing to call this a random act.
Matthew Jennings was charged with killing Ariel Ulibody this week. Ulibody was found stabbed to death at Goodwin Trails Park last month. Her 6-year-old son found wandering in a nearby parking lot. It was a bloody knife found by her family near the crime scene that linked Jennings to the crime.
The key piece of evidence was the knife that was located by the Ulibarri family. That was sent to the state lab, and the lab did a DNA analysis. And with the help of the state lab, we identified a DNA sample from Mr. Jennings.
Police arrested Jennings, and that's when they say he confessed. He claimed he was hired to kill Ulibody and that the murder was, quote, just revenge. Someone asked me to do that. He would not say who hired him or for how much. But Clovis police say they aren't buying it, calling the killing a random murder. Ulibody's family can't understand why and how it could happen with her 6-year-old son nearby.
This was brutal. How could anybody just walk up and stab somebody with their little 6-year-old kid with them?
That little boy is now being taken care of by his grandparents.
He's wondering where mommy is, and I guess that they're telling him that she's up in heaven.
Dean Staley, KRQE News 13.
Clovis police say Jennings told them he was full of rage when he committed the murder. The police chief says he plans to meet with the Ulibarri family today. The death of a Roswell boy more than a year ago has been ruled a homicide, but the big question remains, who killed him? 1-month-old Jonathan Miller was airlifted to UNM Hospital in September 2013 with severe injuries, and he died shortly afterward. Doctors suspected child abuse and notified authorities, but it wasn't until last week that OMI released its autopsy report calling the cause of death homicide, revealing severe head and neck trauma, broken ribs, bite marks, and severe bruising. Roswell police say they do have persons of interest in the boy's death. The Roswell Daily Record reports that it was the baby's grandmother who called 911 after the baby's stepfather took the unresponsive boy to her asking for help. The Department of Justice is swooping in on UNM to investigate the way the school handles rape and sexual harassment cases. UNM's Dean of Students told us he's disappointed and has no idea why the feds are reviewing the university. The DOJ says it will investigate UNM's compliance in how it's handling reports of sexual assault and harassment after getting a series of complaints about the university.
We'll take it very, very seriously, and at the end of the day, I'm sure they'll come back and they'll say, these are the things that you're doing really, really well, and these are the things that you need to do better. And I'll be the first one to thank them and say, thank you for letting me know, and we're going to make it better now.
Beyond that, the DOJ says it has no comment on the investigation. UNM says it was just notified about the investigation early yesterday morning and that it's already doing a lot to address sexual assault and harassment, like yearly safety walks. Another university is facing questions about how it handles sexual assaults on campus after a Rolling Stone article. A student named Jackie detailed a gang rape at a University of Virginia fraternity party in 2012 in the article last month. Now the magazine is backing off its story, saying, quote, there now appears to be discrepancies in Jackie's account, and we have come to the conclusion that our trust in her was misplaced. Phi Kappa Psi fraternity rep said yesterday that the chapter did not have a date function or social event during the weekend of September 28, 2012. Charlottesville police are continuing their investigation, and the school is still focusing on the issue of campus rape. Jackie told the Washington Post she stands by her story. A huge downtown building in Albuquerque has a new look. The Sims building underwent a $7 million renovation that took 2 years. Built 60 years ago, it was the first high-rise building in the city. It's at the corner of 4th and Gold. The building is owned by Peterson Properties. They say it's ready for new tenants. The building has brand new energy-efficient elevators, which regenerate energy and feed the power back into the building. Rio Rancho High's football team is waking up this morning as first-time state champs, and the city's been in a football frenzy all week leading up to the game. Rio Rancho High played, hosted, and won their first state championship last night, finishing out the season undefeated. They won 33-31 against Mayfield of Las Cruces. Businesses have been showing their support and making donations to the Booster Club all week. Even the Rio Rancho mayor got in the spirit, placing a friendly bet with the Las Cruces mayor. The losing team's mayor has to wear the winning team's jersey to a city council meeting.
I just want Mayor Kin to know that I've got his jersey ready for him, and I think he's going to look great in it.
What's made the long wait even more painful for Rio Rancho High School, the city's other high school, Cleveland, has only been around for 5 years, and they've already won a state title. And Sky News 13 flew over a packed house in Belen last night as that town was looking for its first high school championship ever. The Belen Eagles were hosting the Artesia Bulldogs. The stadium sits fewer than 3,000. As you can see, they had a huge overflow crowd. People lined up outside for hours for the game, but Belen will have to keep waiting for a title. Artesia won 49-21. Albuquerque police are looking for 3 teens they say planned to rob a man but ended up killing him in a city park back in October. Police say Miguel Zapata, Jacob Trujillo, and Drew Griego texted another teen posing as a girl to get him to show up at Kit Carson Park. Police say they planned on robbing 19-year-old Nicholas Aragon, but when he got there, Zapata, who is 18, allegedly shot Aragon before fleeing. The other 2 boys involved are 17. A former Albuquerque police sergeant is in jail this morning, having gotten through the first night of his 90-day sentence. Before a judge sentenced Adam Casaus yesterday for a crash that killed a young woman, and before he was cuffed and hauled off to jail, the victim's family laid into Casaus. News 13's Tina Jensen reports.
This moment when a former Albuquerque police officer was handcuffed and taken straight to jail started with a moment back in February 2013 when investigators say off-duty APD Sergeant Adam Casaus sped down Paseo in his work SUV, ran a red, and T-boned Ashley and Lindsay Bratter's Honda. The crash killed 21-year-old Ashley and seriously injured her younger sister Lindsay. Before sentencing for his careless driving conviction, Casaus and others watched a slideshow remembering Ashley. Then family members addressed the courtroom to try to convince the judge to sentence the former cop to the max. The Bratter's father spoke first via Skype.
To me, it has been the single most devastating, painful experience I have ever endured.
The Bratter's mother, Donna, then lashed out at Casaus for never saying he was sorry or admitting the crash was his fault.
The fact is, Adam Casaus blatantly does not give a shit.
Then Lindsay Bratter, who was in a wheelchair for 4 months after the crash, took her turn.
I then remember the doctor and the nurses surrounding my bed with my dad holding my hand, and that is when they told me Ashley died. Adam Casaus is a pathetic man and a piece of human garbage.
While not apologizing, Casaus told the judge he feels for the Bratters.
I want them to know that they're not grieving alone. My family and I, we grieve for them also. And if there was a way that I could switch places with Ashley Bratter right now, I would, sir. I can't do that.
That was Tina Jensen reporting. Casaus wanted the judge to give him 90 days of house arrest, claiming he'd received death threats from inmates at MDC. The judge said he'd be going to jail instead. He will be separated from the rest of the inmates. Had Casaus been convicted of vehicular homicide in the trial back in September, he would have faced up to 9 years in prison. The Bratters are suing APD and the city, claiming Casaus, who was fired after the crash, had no business ever being a cop. Santa Fe police shot a man, landing him in the hospital. New Mexico State Police are investigating the shooting. It happened at 10:30 yesterday morning. Santa Fe police were trying to serve a warrant at a home at Juan de Dios near Alameda. Police say 23-year-old Kevin Chavez was wanted for a probation violation, but police say he took off. The chase ended at the intersection of Cerrillos and Cordova Road. You can see there are bullet holes all over a white van at the scene. Santa Fe Police and the New Mexico Department of Corrections are also involved in the investigation.
We are still looking into his criminal history. I can tell you it is somebody that police are familiar with.
Chavez was on probation for a residential burglary. Police say an officer was injured but have not said how. Protests over perceived excessive use of force by police around the country continued last night. In New York, a grand jury's decision not to indict the police officer who killed Eric Garner using an illegal chokehold brought people out.
Who shoots? Who shoots? Who shoots?
On the third night of protests, demonstrators marched into major New York City stores to stage die-ins. More than 100 protesters laid down in Macy's flagship store and an Apple store on Fifth Avenue before continuing to march through Manhattan onto FDR Drive. Once they got there, this was the scene: NYPD officers restraining and arresting protesters. Demonstrations also continued in Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, New Orleans, and in Oakland, where protesters tried to block a freeway but were stopped by police. There were also protests in Cleveland, where a 12-year-old boy was shot and killed by police. Now his family has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the city and the police department. Tamir Rice was playing with a pellet gun at a park. Police say it looked like a semi-automatic pistol. Surveillance video shows Rice being shot within 2 seconds of a patrol car stopping just feet from him. The suit says 2 officers acted recklessly by confronting the boy in a terrifying manner and never should have fired their guns. Albuquerque police have still not released the name of the man who they've questioned about a huge gun scare near Manzano Elementary School earlier this week. You can see why so many people called 911 and thought it was the real deal. Police say he was carrying these near an elementary school, an airsoft rifle and pistol that look very real. APD says they had a suspect in mind after someone was seen roaming the streets near Eubank and Southern on Monday. Callers reported hearing gunshots too, but police aren't sure if he ever shot at anything. He'll likely face 2 misdemeanor charges, disorderly conduct and another for, quote, propulsion of missiles. New Mexico's Attorney General is suing a major nursing home chain over what it calls poor care. The lawsuit alleges facilities run by Preferred Care don't have enough staff to care for their residents. It also states that understaffing left people with soiled linens and unable to eat or drink without help. It targets 8 nursing homes run by Preferred Care Partners Management Group, the country's 10th largest nursing home chain. A World War II veteran who had his medal stolen celebrated his 90th birthday yesterday.
Kind of quick, but about fast.
Roy Hopper says it's great to celebrate with his many loved ones and his medals that were returned. In May, the medals were taken from Hopper's home while he was in the hospital after he broke a hip. He says the medals mean a lot to him.
I'll never forget what it took to earn them, and I appreciate the effort that the police and everybody went through to get them back for me.
Hopper survived the Normandy invasion and spent 9 months as a prisoner of war during World War II.